Alright, it's day 3 on Green Thumb, April 23rd, and I have decided to go to SDL right away. The main reason that I would stay in JavaScript, or that I would even be using JavaScript in the first place, is to fast prototype a rough version so that I can play a rough version as quickly as possible so that I can see whether or not the game is going to be fun. That's really the thing that I need to determine. It's really the biggest question mark about this game is it going to be fun? And it's pretty hard to imagine how it's going to play and determine from just your imagination whether or not it's going to be fun. So I think it would be good to get playing it as soon as possible. But the thing is, too much of the essence of the game is in details and features that are not quick to build. The plant mechanics are pretty important for my plan for the game, and they're going to take a long time to develop, and so I don't really think that I think I'm just gonna have to trust that the game is gonna work and go ahead and start doing it in SDL so that I don't have to re-implement everything in SDL. I see it kind of feels like I'm gonna be wasting a lot of time doing it in JavaScript because there's just gonna be a lot of things that I'm gonna have to kind of develop fairly deep into in order to see if it's going to be fun. So maybe this is a mistake, but I'm going to stick with using my imagination to the best of my ability to determine whether or not the game is going to be fun. So I spent a lot of time, probably 2, maybe 3 hours this morning, thinking about how the game is going to feel when you're playing it and what you're really going to be doing in the game and whether or not it's going to be enough or not. I had a lot of ideas about spellcasting. I think spellcasting is going to be a pretty central feature. I really like the idea of drawing out the spells and then casting them. So I guess I'll just start with a couple ideas that I had about spellcasting that's gonna make it have more legs to stand on as a feature, really. So first, it's just a quick idea about this is not really like super big stuff, but I had an idea about the look of the spells when they get cast, and I'm imagining that they're kind of like I can't draw, like a kind of a line from the tip of the staff to the target, and it'll kind of be like a line of smoke. Like when it gets cast, the line will instantly appear, and then for a few frames after, the line will kind of start to dissipate like this, like kind of like a vapor trail in the sky. It'll kind of just kind of dissolve into the air, and it'll start to flow with the air currents around there. So it'll kind of be like a trail of energy, smoky energy was left in the air when you cast a spell. I think there's going to be, when you do the symbol part of the spell that identifies which spell you're trying to cast, one thing, the quicker that you do it, the more power or more effective the spell is going to be. This is going to give you some room to grow your skills of drawing the spell accurately, quickly. Because the spells or shapes are going to get pretty complicated, and you're going to need to crank them all out pretty quickly. And the faster that you can do it without thinking about it, the better your spell is going to be. So you're going to be able to increase your skill in spell casting as you would in any game where you can do something like this. But it's not going to be just like you do it 50 times and then you level up. It's going to be your actual skill in casting the actual spell with your mouse. It's going to be your personal skill, not just the player, not the character, is going to level up. It's going to be actually you getting better at something. So after you do that that spell identification part, I think after you draw every line, and if the algorithm recognizes the line as being part of a spell, it'll kind of glow or something, or give you some kind of visual confirmation that you've done the line correctly, and you just keep on adding strokes, and it'll be like, yes, correct, and you'll get that feedback every time you do a stroke that it was correct. And then if you do all of the strokes in the spell correctly, the tip of your staff will like sort of light up a certain color, which indicates that like you're ready to cast the spell. And then I think the actual cast, like, so your staff will be kind of like primed at this point, and then you can cast it by doing a loop that crosses over. And I think that the point where the loop crosses will be where the spell will get cast. So you go like that. Maybe, you could have do like a long line and have the option to cast it anywhere along this line by just intersecting your line like this. And so this will be kind of the thing. It kind of feels natural. That's my idea. It might not work, but for now that's what I'm going for. But I mean, that's kind of a detail, but these details are really important. I mean, how the spell casting feels when you do it is going to make a huge difference to whether or not it's fun. Like, it needs to be fun just to cast a spell. Like, that's why it's so important that you get the feedback when you do the strokes correctly. It's kind of like a little mini game right there. You do the strokes correctly, and I would imagine that that's going to be kind of fun to pull it off, especially, I think all the spells are going to be available to you from the beginning of the game. You can like read a spell book or something and learn any one that you want, and the only thing that's going to stop you is not the character's skill level, but again, your own skill level in being able to memorize some really complex spell patterns. But when you can actually pull one of them off, it's just going to feel awesome. I think it's going to feel like you really you put in the effort, and now you're getting to use an awesome spell. So I think that's going to be cool. Let me just check my notes. So yeah, one other thing that's kind of important is that I think the spells I think you should use up plants in order to cast the spells. Like, I think the energy from the spells should come from somewhere, and if you could somehow use the plants that you are growing in order to make your spells more effective, or maybe make your spells even possible to cast in the first place. I don't know exactly how that would work, but I think that it would be good to use the plants for that, to give the plants kind of another purpose in the game. Really, the only thing that I could think of before that was that you would eat the plants, or maybe use them for, I don't know. I mean, basically, I'm struggling to think of reasons to have the plants. Like, so, because there's going to be the brambles is going to be kind of one main enemy plant, but then there's going to be a bunch of other, like, little, like, grass, different kinds of grasses and bushes and flowers and all kinds of things that are going to be growing, and these are going to be like kind of the good plants, or the neutral plants that you're going to be trying to protect from the blackberries as they move in, or the brambles as they move in. They're going to be out competing the natural plants, and so you aren't going to be wanting to save the natural plants. But what are you actually going to do with the natural plants? I think it would be cool if you could cast spells with them somehow, so you would have an incentive to use these plants to cultivate these plants and protect these plants. This is sounding for, oh yeah, and also I'm going to take out the NPCs. I think, for one thing, it's going to be hella difficult to implement these. Oh, that's going to, whatever. It's going to be super difficult to implement these NPCs, and the combat with the NPCs is going to be really difficult to implement. I mean, it's not a problem that it's going to be difficult. It's just like, I don't think that they are really necessary. I don't think that they really add that much to the game. I would like to try and make the mechanics as kind of minimalistic as possible, so that they can just be good and clean And I don't really see that the NPCs are bringing enough to the game. Even though I would love to fight with them with the staff, I think that would be really cool, like whipping out spells. One quick thing again about the spells is that probably it's gonna work out that when you do the shape, it's gonna your staff is gonna be always primed for that spell now, and you can just cast it multiple times without having to redraw the shape again. And only if you want to change spells do you have to redraw the shape. I just think that'd be better. Well, I mean, I was mostly thinking that for NPCs because in case like they're attacking you, you don't have time to like be drawing this big thing every time. You just want to like fucking give them what for with your staff. But maybe without the NPCs, you will have to redraw the shape every time. But anyway, yeah, as much as I would love to fight with the NPCs, I think that combat mechanic could be really good. Maybe that would be something that I would put in really far down the road, but for now, I just think it's a little too much. I'm trying to finish as much as I can on this game in the summer, and I mean, even if I'm working every day, this is just a big deal. I would rather focus more on animals, like focus more on like having rabbits and squirrels and birds and do the AI for those, than other players. So when you meditate, the brambles become less harmful, or maybe not harmful at all to you. There's kind of two different ways to approach the brambles that I can't quite decide between. The first way is that the brambles are actually real and dangerous and kind of bad, and you fight the brambles, and I think it would feel good to just beat back these brambles and get better at beating them back. I think you can still have that, but in the second option, there is the kind of underlying idea that if you meditate, you can prevent these brambles from being your enemy. You'll stop yourself from like being able to take damage maybe, but at the very least the brambles will not be in conflict with you anymore, so you could walk among the brambles after you have meditated. And in this way, the brambles are more psychological. They're more of a metaphor for like the impending doom, the thing that's always closing in around you. And if you can go into yourself and relieve yourself of the conflict, kind of the imaginary conflict with the outside world, then they can stop being bad. But the brambles will still grow inwards, and they still will outcompete other plants, I think, even after you've meditated. But the difference will be that you won't be in conflict with them yourself, but you will just be protecting the natural plants because you like them. And this brings me to, so the problem with this is, if you ever found out that you could just press shift and wait, and the brambles would no longer be your enemy, then that would kind of ruin the game for you. The game would kind of be done, because what would you be doing? You have no more enemy to fight, and you're just putzing around. You have no real reason to learn spells. There's really nothing else to it. So I'm thinking of maybe combining in order to solve this problem, in order to have something to do. I'm kind of taking inspiration from real life. When you stop putting yourself in a position of conflict with everything around you, why do you continue even to live then at that point? Because everything's kind of all right. Nothing is really taken too seriously, or seriously at all. So why do you even continue to exist? And it's because the world is just cool. The world has got a lot of really beautiful, interesting things in it, and you just continue going just because it's fun. Like, it's just not because you have an enemy or something that you're trying to defeat, but just the experience of being alive is just really awesome. So you continue to, live your life, even if you reach enlightenment or something. So I think that's what I'm going to take inspiration from in the game, and I'm going to try and implement. I think I'm going to put the node physics, like the plant genetic algorithm thing, in here, so that the plant mechanics will be really deep. They'll actually be able to evolve, and I mean, at the very least, have like some kind of interesting growth pattern or some kind of simulation element that you will be able to play around with if you discover that the brambles are no longer a threat to you. So yeah, if that happens, if you ever make it that far, you will still have a reason to play the game, and that will be just to play with the plant mechanics. It'll kind of be like a plant simulation embedded in this game, so that there's actually still something interesting to do. So the node-based plant physics simulation is just like a really simple physics simulation to give the plant something to, some kind of extra, kind of a more complex playground in which to evolve. If you're going to have a genetic algorithm evolving something, you want to have as many, as complex of a world, as many different mechanics that can affect the plants as possible. Like, you want to have sunlight taken into account, you want to have physics, water, nutrients, air currents, air temperature, as many variables as you can, so that the plants will have something to evolve for. They'll have something, some forces that will guide their evolution in different directions depending on their circumstance. Basically, the more variables you have, the more combinations, like the more unique circumstances a plant can find itself in, so the more unique ways a plant will be likely to evolve. But I like the idea. I mean, I personally love the idea of having a genetic algorithm evolving simulated plants, and it's a project that I've already started working on separately, but I think maybe it would be alright to include it in this, because it's just kind of it just allows you to play around and explore. And so anyway, that's the direction that I'm going to go for now. Today I'm going to start working in SDL and try and get just some like basic understanding. I pretty much have no knowledge of SDL right now. So I'm just going to pop in and try and get as much down as I can. And I don't expect to be doing any work on the actual game today, because if I can, take input from the mouse in SDL, or like even write a game loop in SDL, I'll be happy for my progress today. So yeah, there's a lot of work to do on this, but I guess that means I just gotta get started. I got the coding radio on. I have found the documentation for SDL. It's super exciting, and I'm flowing. I got the big green window. So we're taking it from there. So I've been doing this for like 4 hours now, probably. I'm getting out the old BCIT C++ course files because it's been so long for a couple of things. But I've been following a tutorial, and basically just reorganize the window thing, so we still just... Oh, this is not going to compile. I'm trying to do some key handling, which I don't know how to do right now, so I'll just do that so I can show you. We just have our window. I did get a rectangle to draw earlier, but yeah, I'm just exploring the how to handle keyboard events and mouse input events and how to draw stuff and overall making progress. But yeah, I've been at this a long time, so I should probably take a break.